Yo, what's up guys? It's Noah here, and in today's video, we're going to be breaking down the NBA slate on Draftkings and Yahoo for Wednesday, February the 17th. Got a big Wednesday slate. We got 10 games to break down, so I don't really want to waste too much time. We're going to break it all down team by team. I'm going to try and go as quick as I can, keep this video as short as I can, but before we do get started with the breakdown, guys, as always, I'd appreciate it if you hit that like button down below, hit the subscribe button as well if you are new here. Be sure to click that notification bell so that way you do get notified every time I upload. You also get notified every time I do go live. I will be live streaming this afternoon around 4 o'clock Eastern time once again, breaking down tonight's slate, answering all your guys' questions. We can hit on any news that comes out throughout the day. We can touch on that in the live stream. So if you're available around 4 Eastern, I will be live on my YouTube channel. If you want to come and chat, hang out with us, we'll be able to break everything down again in the live stream. But yeah, hit the like button, guys. Hit the subscribe button. Check out my Patreon content as well. That's linked down below in the description. If you really enjoy these videos, you like what I offer, or you like what I put out on YouTube, you want to see more that I have to offer, you can check out the Patreon link down below. But let's go ahead and start off. Take a look at the Knicks and Magic game. This will be the first game we start off with. So looking on the Knicks side today, there really isn't much that stands out from New York for me. I think Julius Randle is someone that, you can really always play. He's a guy that has a ton of upside. His price has come up now. He's up to 9,500 after having a really big game last time out against the Hawks, I believe. But really, like on the Knicks, everyone just kind of feels appropriately priced. Nerlens Noel's been starting for Mitchell Robinson. He's been getting close to 30 minutes. We've yet to see, a really good game from Nerlens Noel. He still is a pretty good point per minute player. He does have upside. Maybe you could take a shot on him at 4,700, but on a bigger slate like this, I feel like we're probably just going to have better value open up. So I really don't like too much from the Knicks side today. Not much stands out at all from this team. On the Magic side, we'll have to watch the injuries here. We do know that Aaron Gordon and Cole Anthony are both going to be out for this game. Cole Anthony, it was looking like he was going to be able to return. Then he got something happened, and Anthony's going to be out for, I believe, a couple of weeks. Going to be out till the All-Star break. So we got to watch the status of Evan Fournier and James Ennis, though. Evan Fournier is currently questionable. He's been out for a while now, but could return. James Ennis has missed, I believe, their last 2 games. He is questionable for this one. So if Evan Fournier and James Ennis play, there really isn't much that I like from the Magic today because, Terrence Ross has been priced up for these guys being out. Vooch is all the way up to over 10K. Even Fournier is at 5,900. I really don't have too much interest in anyone on the Magic. Like, this is just not that appealing of a game. It's going to be really slow paced. I don't expect a ton of points to be scored here. I think the one guy that I'll be looking to from the Magic is probably Michael Carter-Williams. I assume with Cole Anthony out that we see MCW draw the start once again. He has started the last 2 games since returning from injury. He's played 27 and 30 minutes, has scored 39 and 21 DK points. On a point per minute basis, MCW averages about 0.8, 0.9 fantasy points per minute. I'd assume he gets around 30 to 32 minutes today. He's basically just going to take over Cole Anthony's role. He's going to be their starting point guard. He's going to play probably 30 to 32 minutes. At 4,900, he's definitely viable, but it's not like he's, 3,500 or anything. If I had to target anyone from the Magic today, I think it would be MCW, but really everyone's just kind of been priced up to where I don't have too much interest in anyone on this Magic team, and really this game as a whole is just not that appealing. Just slow-paced game. I don't expect a ton of points to be scored here. We can go ahead and move on to the next one. So with the Hawks and the Celtics, on the Hawks side, there really isn't much that stands out from Atlanta either. Like Trae Young, kind of similar to Julius Randle, always has upside, but do I want to play Trae Young on this slate on the road against Boston? Like, just not the most ideal matchup. I think there's other studs I'd rather get to. Clint Capella, a guy that always has upside. His price is pretty reasonable at 7,500. You could maybe go to him. John Collins is down to 6,900. I do like that price quite a bit, but John Collins has really struggled lately. We haven't really seen any good games from him in like the last 3. I mean, he's been pretty bad lately, but at 6,900, that is a pretty nice price tag for John Collins. I think it would be, if I had to go to anyone on Atlanta, it would probably be Capella or Collins. Like Gallo's been getting around 30 minutes off the bench with DeAndre Hunter out. At 4,800, he's not really like a top player or anything. He's fine as a last piece in, but not really someone that stands out a ton. Again, like the Hawks are just not that appealing of a team. I don't see too much that I really like from Atlanta. So moving on to the Celtics side, the Celtics are a lot more appealing today. We do need to watch the status of Kemba Walker. So this is a back-to-back for the Celtics. Kemba Walker has yet to play on any back-to-back so far this season. Very possible that, I wouldn't even say very likely that Kemba Walker is going to be out tonight. Regardless of the status of Kemba Walker, I think this is a really good spot for these Boston guys, and they do look very appealing on the slate. Jason Tatum, I think, is definitely too cheap for this matchup against Atlanta. I like him quite a bit on both sides. 8,700 on DK. He is pretty affordable on Yahoo at the power forward position, only $41. I do like him quite a bit over there as well. Like I said, I'm assuming Kemba's going to be out. If Kemba winds up playing, maybe that'll lower my interest in Tatum, but I still think Tatum would be viable. He hasn't been great lately. He's been pretty disappointing just his last 2 games against Washington and Denver, but we know the upside Jason Tatum has. It's a great matchup here against Atlanta. Atlanta's been playing better defensively this year, but still they're not, an elite defensive team or anything. Definitely a spot where we could see a big game from Tatum at 8,700. That is definitely too cheap for him, for the upside he has on a nightly basis. And if Kemba winds up out, 8,700 is definitely way too cheap for Tatum if we get no Kemba, because we already know that Marcus Smart is going to be out as well. Daniel Tice is also questionable. We'll need to keep an eye on his status. He sat out on Monday night, or not Monday night, but Tuesday night. He sat out on Tuesday. We saw Tristan Thompson draw the start Tuesday, played 28 minutes, had 23 DK points. Thompson would be a fine value play at 4,100 if Tice were to sit again. Robert Williams, he got a good amount of minutes off the bench. He played 20 minutes, was really productive, had 30 DK points. He did have 5 steals, which is a bit of an outlier, but Robert Williams is a really good point per minute player. If he's going to get around 20, 22 minutes at 3,100, if Daniel Tice were to sit again, I'd have interest in Robert Williams. But I think really the guys I'm looking to from Boston today are definitely, especially if Kemba's out, Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum I like quite a bit. And I guess we could target Peyton Pritchard again. We saw this scenario. I believe it was this game against Detroit. It was a back-to-back. Kemba did not play that game. Peyton Pritchard, he started at point guard, played 29 minutes, but he was terrible. Had 6 Draftkings points in 29 minutes. I think I'd still be willing to play Peyton Pritchard today if Kemba winds up out and Pritchard starts again. I know he burned us. He burned all of us that day. I think that was like Friday or something of last week, but if Kemba sits again on this if Kemba sits on this back-to-back and Pritchard starts again, especially in a really good matchup against the Hawks, I do have interest in Peyton Pritchard on this slate. Definitely going to be someone worth getting to, but really like the big 3. If Kemba plays, he's viable, but like I said, I think he's going to be out. So Brown and Tatum I like quite a bit. If Tice is out again, you could look to Thompson and Williams, and if Kemba sits, you could look to Peyton Pritchard as a value play if he starts. But we can go ahead and move on to the next game, Houston and Philly. So Houston dealing with some injuries right now. We know Christian Wood's going to remain out, while Victor Oladipo and Eric Gordon are both doubtful. They both were out last game. PJ Tucker, he is questionable, I believe. Yeah, he is questionable. He sat out last game as well. But with no Wood, no Oladipo, and no Eric Gordon, I think John Wall, I want to go right back to John Wall. 7,800 on DK still does feel a little bit too cheap. His price went up a little bit on Yahoo, but at $36, I still like him quite a bit over there as well. So with all these guys out, Oladipo, Wood, all these guys out, or Eric Gordon out as well, like John Wall is just going to dominate the usage. We saw that last game against Washington. Played 35 minutes, took 26 shots, had 52 Draftkings points. He shot the ball pretty badly in that game and still managed to score over 50 fantasy points, had 11 assists. Like, his upside is just through the roof with all these guys off the floor. He's going to dominate the usage. He's going to have the ball in his hands a ton. He's back to getting 35, 36 minutes, and that's just what I assume he plays today, as long as this game stays close. So I really like John Wall. I think I'm going to be right back on him once again on this slate. DeMarcus Cousins, he's been really bad lately, but against Embiid, in this matchup against Joel Embiid, they're going to need Cousins out there. They really don't have a choice. Maybe PJ Tucker can defend Embiid, but I don't expect that to go too well. Cousins could get more minutes here. He's really risky at this point. You don't really know what you're getting from Cousins, but the upside's always there if he does wind up getting the minutes. But then these cheaper guys I think are appealing. Normally Jayshawn Tate, Daniel House, David Nwaba, these would not be guys I'd really be looking to. But last game with Eric Gordon and Oladipo both out, we saw big minutes for both Tate and Nwaba. Jayshawn Tate played 40 minutes in the starting lineup. David Nwaba started in place of Eric Gordon. He played 41 minutes, had 41 DK points. I'm fine going right back to both these guys, and I think Nwaba is definitely my favorite just because he's the cheapest. He's only $4,300, whereas Tate's $5,500. I like Nwaba once again at $4,300, and he's cheap on Yahoo as well. At the small forward position, he's $14. I think he's a really good value play over there as well. So, I don't know if we can expect over 40 fantasy points from Nwaba because, he's not a point per minute player, but I do expect him to be somewhat productive when he's on the floor just because Houston really has no one else outside of John Wall. Nwaba was able to get double-digit boards. He had a double-double last game. He's someone that can get defensive stats. He's going to play a ton of minutes. He might get close to 40 minutes again in this game. At 4,300, I'm totally fine going right back to David Nwaba just because they're just so thin right now. Houston, they're going to run their starters into the ground outside of Cousins. We know we're getting big minutes from Wall, Tate, Brown, or Wall, Tate, Nwaba, even Daniel House started last game. He played pretty big minutes. I'd expect 35, 36 minutes from him at 5K. He's totally viable on this slate. So really a lot to like from Houston here. I think Wall, Nwaba, and Tate are my favorites, but Daniel House is in play. DeMarcus Cousins is in play if he gets the minutes here against Embiid. Sterling Brown, I don't know if I can go there. He didn't get a ton of minutes last game. He got 25. Or he got decent minutes. He got 25. He wasn't very productive, though. I still think he has some upside. You could go to him, but I definitely would rather play Nwaba. I think that probably does it for Houston. Lot to like from Houston. The main guys I'll be looking to are Wall and Nwaba for sure, and then I think Tate, House, Cousins are all viable as well. Moving on to the Sixers side. So with the Sixers, on this team, there's not much I like from Philadelphia today outside of Joel Embiid. Joel Embiid is currently probable. He is expected to play. He was announced in the starting lineup last game, and then he got late scratch. I'm assuming he's good to go today. So with Embiid back, in a matchup against DeMarcus Cousins and against an undersized Houston team, I think the upside is through the roof for Embiid here. I don't expect Cousins to slow him down at all. Cousins is just not a good defender at this point. Embiid should be able to have his way in this matchup. I think he is one of the better pay-up options on this slate if you do want to pay up for Embiid. We will talk about Jokic later. Jokic is in a great spot as well, but do like Embiid. Ben Simmons, though, I don't really want to go to at 9,200. I think he's just a little bit too expensive. Same with Tobias Harris. Really, I think on Philly today, it's Embiid and not much else for me. So moving on to the next game, the Pacers and the Timberwolves. So on the Pacers today, really good matchup for these Indiana guys against the Timberwolves. We know the Timberwolves play fast. They're not a good defensive team. Both Domantas Sabonis and Malcolm Brogdon have been priced up a decent amount. Sabonis is 9,700. Brogdon is 7,700. I still think both are really good options today. Brogdon finally had a good game last game against the Bulls, put up over 50 DK points in their overtime loss against Chicago, played 42 minutes. That's the kind of upside we know Brogdon has. He's someone that can literally triple-double any night. He does a little bit of everything. He's going to have those games where he puts up, 20, 10, and 10. He's got that upside in him. Really good matchup against Minnesota. Pace-up spot. I do like Malcolm Brogdon a lot at his price tag. Sabonis I like as well. A little bit tougher to get to him now that he's closer to 10K, but really good matchup. I expect Sabonis to be able to have a ton of success here. Miles Turner, not the biggest fan of at 6,300. TJ McConnell, though, I think is appealing, especially if Doug McDermott remains out. With Doug McDermott out last game, TJ McConnell actually started, and he played a ton of minutes, played 42 minutes, had 37 DK points. Even with his price up to 5,600, TJ McConnell's a point-per-minute player or close to it. If he were to start again and get 34, 35 minutes, he'd be totally viable at 5,600 in a really good matchup. So I think those are the main targets of mine from Indiana. Definitely Sabonis, Brogdon, and McConnell. If McDermott's out again, those are the guys I really like from the Pacers today. On the Minnesota side, though, not a ton that I really like from Minnesota. All these guys have just kind of been priced to where they should be. It is a back-to-back for the Timberwolves, so that is something to note. I'd assume everybody's going to play here, but maybe they sit Towns on the back-to-back. I don't really know. I don't think they would, but yeah, I don't really like too much from Minnesota today. I think if I was going to go to anyone, it would probably be like Jared Vanderbilt. He has been starting recently. He did start again against the Lakers on Tuesday night. He had an okay game. I think he finished with 24 fantasy points in 22 minutes. He hasn't been getting a ton of minutes, but if he does start again, I think it's likely we get about 22, 24 minutes from Vanderbilt, maybe a few more if he's playing well. He's been a productive player when he's on the floor. At 4,200, he'd be a decent value play, not like a top value or anything, but someone that is at least viable. But I really don't have too much interest in Minnesota today. Just everyone's kind of priced appropriately. Nobody stands out at their price point. So moving on to the next game, Denver and Washington. So Denver is probably the biggest team to watch today in terms of injuries. So on Tuesday, again in their matchup against Boston, we got word that Monte Morris was out, while Will Barton, Paul Millsap, Gary Harris, and PJ Dozier were all out as well. We really don't know their statuses for this game right now. Barton, Millsap, Morris, Harris, Dozier, we don't know if they're playing or not. If they all wind up playing, really the only guys I would have interest in from Denver today would be the top two guys, Jokic and Murray. I think even if they all play, if Barton, Millsap, Morris, if they all play, I don't really want to go to anyone else outside of those two, but Jokic in a matchup against the Wizards, Jokic just has massive upside here. I liked Jokic a ton on Tuesday's slate. He did have a really good game, 64 DK points in 38 minutes. Especially if all these guys remain out, Jokic is just going to have the ball in his hands a ton. He was on pace to play close to 40 minutes on Tuesday, but the game was a little bit of a blowout. He left a little early. I assume if tonight's game is close against Washington, we get about 36, 38 minutes from Nikola Jokic. I mean, whether it's Mo Wagner, Robin Lopez, Alex Len, like they just have no one to slow down Jokic. I think Jokic, once again, is one of the best pay-up options on the slate. And if all those guys are out again for Denver, I'm going to like Jokic even more. So really, really like Nikola Jokic once again. I think Jamal Murray at 7,100 looks very appealing as well. I do like Murray quite a bit on both sides. He is still very, very cheap on Yahoo. He's still just $22 over there. Right now, that's just way too cheap for Jamal Murray, especially in a great matchup like this against Washington. We've seen Jamal Murray kind of really turn it on lately, be much better than he was at the beginning of the year. Last 3 games, 40, 39, and 45 DraftKings points, playing big minutes, 38, 34, 33 minutes. I'd assume even if, Barton, Millsap, all those guys play, we still get 35, 36 minutes from Jamal Murray. Maybe he picks up a few more minutes if all those guys are out. The ball's going to be in his hands a ton. We know the usage is going to be there. Him and Jokic are going to dominate the usage regardless. But if all those guys were to be out again, I feel even better about Jamal Murray. So, yeah, like I said, we just got to keep an eye on these Denver injuries. Really tough to break down this Denver team right now, not knowing the status of all these guys. If they all play, Jokic and Murray are the 2 guys I like, and not anyone else. If they're out again, though, Jokic, Murray, I think are great plays. Michael Porter Jr. probably won't be on. JaMychal Green, I played him Tuesday night. It didn't work out. He started, and he played pretty good minutes, but he just wasn't that productive. 12 DraftKings points in 29 minutes. Even if Millsap's out again, tough to really go to JaMychal Green on this slate. The big guy to watch here would be Campazzo. So Campazzo did start in place of Monte Morris. Monte Morris was out Tuesday, and he played 40 minutes, had 37 DraftKings points. If we get a scenario where Monte Morris, PJ Dozier, Gary Harris are all out again, I would assume that Campazzo starts and plays, probably 36, 38 minutes at 3,500 in a matchup against the Wizards. Campazzo, if he's starting again, would be a really, really good value play. He'd be one of the best value plays on the slate. So keep an eye on that. Really, I think that does it for Denver, though. Moving on to the Wizards side. So with the Wizards, when this team's fully healthy, there's not too much I like on Washington outside of Westbrook and Beal. I think those 2 guys you could definitely look to pay up for. Now, I do have interest in some value here. We do have a potential value play in Mo Wagner. Mo Wagner has started the last 2 games for the Wizards. He's played 22 and 24 minutes. He was on pace to play way more minutes last game against Houston, but he was in foul trouble. Foul trouble, that is always a issue for Mo Wagner. And in a matchup like this against Jokic, I mean, foul trouble is obviously a huge concern. I would not be surprised if Wagner picks up 2 fouls in the first minute of the game. But if he can stay out of foul trouble, I think we do get probably 24, 25 minutes from Wagner if he's starting again. He's a pretty productive player when he's on the floor. He'd actually be a decent value play. He's obviously risky because the foul trouble is a huge concern, and the minutes are never secure with these Wizards bigs, but it seems like Wagner is the guy that they want to go to right now. He's been the starter recently. He'd be viable at 3,800, as a value option. Beal and Westbrook, I think, are just contrarian plays on this slate. I don't think either one look like top spend-up options. They're just other studs I'd rather pay up for. So I really think that does it for Washington. Not too much else I like on the Wizards. So moving on to the next game, Detroit and Chicago. On Detroit today, we do know that Blake Griffin is going to be out. I'm pretty sure they're just sitting him out until they figure out what they're going to do with him. I think they're looking to trade him. So Blake Griffin's not going to be playing until he gets traded, or at least for a good amount of time. So with Blake Griffin out, that does benefit guys like Jeremy Grant, Mason Plumlee, Sadiq Bey. But they've kind of all been priced up. Grant 7,600, Plumlee 7,200, Sadiq Bey is 5,500. Really, there's not a ton I like from Detroit today, even in a really good matchup against the Bulls. I think if I was going to go to anyone, it would probably be DeLon Wright, just because I think he's still underpriced a little bit at 6K. This is still someone that's going to put up probably 35, close to 40 DK points most nights. He's getting big minutes. He's going to play 35 to 36 minutes in this game if it stays close. It's a really good matchup. I definitely think at 6K, DeLon Wright is still a little bit too cheap, so he's the guy that stands out most from Detroit. I know on Yahoo, a lot of these guys are a lot cheaper, like Jeremy Grant's $32, Sadiq Bey's $14. I think they're totally viable. Plumlee at center, he is $22. You could definitely look to him there. DeLon Wright is $24, so I have interest in him, but I don't think there's really any top options from Detroit. I just think these are guys you can kind of mix in. You can mix in these guys if you're playing multiple lineups, but really I think that does it for Detroit. Now on the Bulls side, not much really stands out from the Bulls today. I think the only guy I would really be looking to on this team is Zach LaVine. It's just a lower-owned tournament option. Really, I don't have much interest in Kobe White or Thad Young or Wendell Carter. If Wendell Carter were to get normal minutes, he'd be appealing at 5,500, but he's going to be on a minutes limit until he gets back to full strength. He only played 21 minutes last game. yeah, the Bulls they're not that appealing of a team today. This game really isn't that appealing for me. If I was going to target anyone, it'd be like guys on the Detroit side, like DeLon Wright, maybe Sadiq Bey on Yahoo where he's a little bit cheaper. But yeah, I think that kind of does it for this one. So moving on to the next game, we got 4 more. We got a couple of these late night games. So Portland and New Orleans. Portland is on a back-to-back today. That is something to note. I don't think anyone's going to rest here, but it is at least worth noting. So on Portland today, when this team is fully healthy, or with the scenario that they're at right now, with Jokic or with McCollum and Nurkic out, really the only guys I'm looking to target from Portland right now are Damian Lillard and Enes Kanter. Once again, I think those are the 2 guys I would be looking to here. Neither one I think are like top plays today, but they are definitely guys you could fit in. If I was playing one lineup and I had $7K left for my util spot, I'd be fine playing Kanter there. I don't think I'm going out of my way to play anyone on Portland, but as last pieces in, I think Lillard and Kanter are both viable plays, but really not too much stands out from Portland as like top options. Now on the New Orleans side, we do have a pretty big injury to watch here. So Steven Adams, he got injured in Tuesday's game. This is a back-to-back for the Pelicans. I believe he did not return in Tuesday's game, so need to keep an eye on his status. If he winds up out, we would have some really good value in Willy Hernangomez. I would assume that if Adams does wind up sitting, we see Willy Hernangomez draw the start, and Hernangomez, when he's gotten minutes this year, has been really productive. He's only 3,800. If Adams winds up out and Hernangomez starts, he's going to be one of the best value plays on the slate. So that is something to monitor. But like Zion, Ingram, Lonzo, at their price points, I think they're just, contrarian options. I don't think any of them stand out as top plays. Zion was really good on Tuesday night, had 51 DK points in only 28 minutes. If I was going to go to any of the pay-up options, like between him or Ingram, I would definitely rather play Zion here. But I don't love Lonzo at his price. I don't really like Bledsoe that much at his price. But, Willy Hernangomez could be a really good value if Steven Adams winds up out. And I know Josh Hart's been playing really well off the bench lately, but I don't think I really want to chase these games from Josh Hart. Tuesday night, he shot incredibly well from the field. I'm just not going to chase these games. I'll let other people do that. I'm not playing Josh Hart on this slate. So, yeah, that does it for the Pelicans. Moving on to OKC and Memphis. OKC, they're also on a back-to-back here, which is something to monitor. So, Al Horford, I believe he's been resting on all their back-to-backs this year. I don't think Horford has played on a back-to-back yet this season. So this is definitely something we need to keep an eye on. If Horford winds up resting today, we would get some really good value from OKC. I would assume that Isaiah Roby or Mike Muscala, one of those 2 guys would draw the start at center. Both of them would be really good value plays. Roby is power forward and center eligible, so he would be probably one of the best values on the slate if Horford does wind up resting. If this team's good to go though, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, he's currently questionable, I believe. We don't know his status. It seems like he's going to be back soon. If he comes back for this game, there's just not much I like at all from OKC because everyone's been priced up. But, we need to keep an eye on the status of Horford because it is a back-to-back. Horford's been resting on back-to-backs this year. If he rests, I do really like Isaiah Roby and Mike Muscala. Whichever one starts, I would like the most. But, yeah, I think that does it for OKC. Now, on the Memphis side, it's also a back-to-back for Memphis. I don't think anyone's going to rest here, but that's just something, worth monitoring. Joe Val, John Morant. Again, I don't think either guy stands out as a top play at their price points, but I think they're 2 guys you can mix in tournaments. They're definitely fine as last pieces in. I don't really have too much interest in anyone else though, like Brandon Clark, Kyle Anderson, Dylan Brooks. I think are all just kind of appropriately priced. If this was a smaller slate, these guys would be appealing, but on a big slate like this, I really don't want to target any of these secondary guys from Memphis. It's just, John Morant, Joe Val for me. We can go ahead and move on to the next one. So Miami and Golden State. On Miami, we do know Goran Dragic is going to remain out. Jimmy Butler, he's been playing incredibly well lately. He had a massive game last time out against Utah. He nearly triple-doubled, I believe, or he did triple-double, 65 Draftkings points in 38 minutes. Butler's been playing so well lately. I don't know if on this slate I can go to Jimmy Butler, though, at 8,800. I just think he's a little bit too expensive. I know it's a good matchup against the the Warriors. I know the Warriors play fast. It's a pace-up spot. I just don't think I can pay up for Butler at his price point. I think there's just other guys I'd rather get to on this slate. There's other guards I like for cheaper, in his price range. Kind of the same with Bam. Tyler Hero at 6K I think is viable. He should get probably over 30 minutes without Goran Dragic out there. He did get big minutes last game because Kendrick Nunn got into foul trouble, but even with Nunn, still playing his normal minutes, we've been getting 32, 34 minutes from Tyler Hero. I think that's what we get tonight. At 6K, another fine option, but not really a top play. Kendrick Nunn, again, just kind of a fine option. He's going to play probably 30 to 32 minutes if he's not in foul trouble like he was last game. pretty good matchup, pace-up spot here. I could see going to Kendrick Nunn. But yeah, really outside of Butler, Hero, and Nunn, I don't have too much interest in anyone else on the Heat today. It's a good matchup for Bam, but on this slate, I don't know if I can pay for Bam at center. At least not in one lineup. Maybe if I was playing multiple lineups, I could see getting to Bam. On this slate, though, there's just so many other centers that stand out. We could potentially have some really good value at the center position with Willie Hernangomez, Isaiah Roby, depending if guys wind up out, depending on who winds up out today. So yeah, I think that does it for Miami. Now looking on the Warriors. Only news we know is that James Wiseman remains out, while I believe Kevon Looney remains out. So, we're going to continue to see Draymond Green starting at center. If I'm going to go to anyone on the Warriors today, it's going to be Draymond Green. At 6,800, I think he's still viable at this price point. We know we're getting 35, 36 minutes from Draymond. He was insanely productive last game against Cleveland in only 30 minutes. Had 47 DK points in that time. He's just been so good lately. He's been stuffing the stat sheet, doing a little bit of everything. I still do like Draymond. I still think he is too cheap at 6,800. He would be the one guy I'd look to from the Warriors today, but I don't really have any interest in too much else from this team. Steph, he's always viable in tournaments, but on this slate, do I really want to pay $10,500 for Steph against the Heat when I can find other studs I like, Jokic and Embiid, in better spots? So yeah, that does it for this game. We can go ahead and move on to the last one, Utah and the Clippers. So Utah, it all depends on Mike Conley's status. If Mike Conley plays, I really don't like anything at all from Utah today. Not much. This is normally not a team I really go out of my way to target, especially not on a big slate when they're fully healthy. If Conley were to remain out, though, that would be a boost for Donovan Mitchell. That'd be a boost for Jordan Clarkson, Joe Ingles. All those guys have kind of been priced appropriately, though. Like Clarkson is $6,500 now. Ingles is $5,900. Mitchell does still feel a little bit too cheap if Conley were to sit, so he'd be viable. But yeah, if Conley plays, I don't really like much at all from the Jazz today. Now on the Clippers side, we do need to watch the status of Kawhi Leonard. That is a big injury. We do know that Paul George and Nicholas Batum are both going to be out for this game. Patrick Beverley is going to be back after resting their last game. But the big injury to watch here is Kawhi Leonard. He is questionable. He's missed, I believe, their last 2 or 3 games. I have no idea if Kawhi plays today. I assume he does, but if he does wind up out, that'd be a boost for Lou Williams. That'd be a boost for Marcus Morris, Ibaka, Reggie Jackson. Like, all these guys would get a bump if Kawhi's out because, Kawhi is such a high-usage player. But assuming that Kawhi does play, really the only guy that I have interest in at their price tag from the Clippers today is probably going to be Marcus Morris. I think with Nicholas Batum out, we do see Marcus Morris start again at power forward like he did last game. He was on pace to absolutely smash last game, but he was in foul trouble, had 5 fouls in 26 minutes. He was on pace to play pretty big minutes as well. I think tonight we probably get 32, 34 minutes from Marcus Morris in the starting lineup. And if Kawhi winds up sitting again, maybe we see Marcus Morris even pick up a few more minutes. Obviously, I would like him more if Kawhi is out, but I think at 5,700, if we're going to be getting 34, 35 minutes from Marcus Morris, he is still in play, in my opinion. He is someone that can be productive when he's on the floor. He can score, he can get rebounds. I do like him quite a bit on this slate. I still do have interest in him. 5,700 on DK, and then on Yahoo, he's still pretty affordable over on Yahoo. Looking at the small forward position, you got Marcus Morris coming in at $15. I think he does look like a really good value over on Yahoo today. So that really does it from the Clippers today. If Kawhi winds up playing, I think the only guy I have interest in is probably Marcus Morris at his price point. But if Kawhi winds up out, that would be a bump for Lou Williams. Obviously, Lou Williams is really expensive now, but he would still be viable. Ibaka would get a little bump. Reggie Jackson would get a bump. Patrick Beverley would actually be appealing as well. He's been really good this year on a point-per-minute basis whenever Kawhi and PG have both been off the floor. Minutes are always a concern with Patrick Beverley. You never know how many minutes he's going to get, but we saw in that Cleveland game when PG and Kawhi were both out, Beverley did have 36 DK points in 20 minutes. He can be productive when he does get more opportunity, and he will get more opportunity today if Kawhi sits. So he'd be appealing, but yeah, I think that does it for the Clippers today. I think that does it for this team. Terrence Mann, I don't know. He started last game, but I would assume if Kawhi plays today, Terrence Mann probably goes back to the bench. If Kawhi winds up sitting, though, and Terrence Mann starts again at 4,300, got 37 minutes last game, he would definitely be viable. But yeah, that does it for the Clippers, guys. That does it for all 10 games today. So hope you enjoyed the team-by-team breakdown. I tried to go as quick as I could. I know it's a really big slate, tough to go really fast, but tried to break it all down as quickly as I could while still giving you guys a good amount of information. So hope you enjoyed this video. I do appreciate you watching. If you enjoyed, hit that like button down below. Hit the subscribe button as well. Be sure to click that notification bell so that way you do get notified every time I upload. You also get notified every time I do go live. And like I said earlier, I'll be live streaming around 4 o'clock Eastern Time for tonight's slate to break everything down with you guys, answer all your questions. But yeah, good luck tonight, guys. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one. Peace.